This week's lick is a smoking hot blast in the Paul of Style Gilbert. Good afternoon, children, and welcome to this week's installment of Weekend Wankshop. Here's your good buddy, Uncle Ben. You know, Paul Gilbert is held by many as being one of the almighty gods of alternate picking, but in reality, a lot of his really fast, shreddy stuff is a combination of alternate picking and legato. By strategically combining aggressive alternate picking with legato, you can get really cool sounds out of your playing that aren't as monotone as something that is exclusively picked or exclusively legato. They're also usually a lot easier to play considering the pick isn't going to be jumping around and doing as much work as it usually is with an all alternate picked kind of lick. Take the sequence you're going to learn today and apply it to any other 3-note per string scale and see what you can come up with. But before we get into it, let's hear it again at stepdad speed. So I was thinking about this lick taking place over kind of an E minor sort of sound. It starts off on the flat third of that chord, which is G, and it ends on the root note of that chord, which is E. Some of you guys might recognize these as feeling like G major scale shapes, but you got to remember what it's being played over really dictates the tonality. Harmony means a hell of a lot more than a fingerboard pattern. The first lick here kind of encapsulates the entire sequencing element of this lick, so be sure to study this part really closely and get it down very well before you move on to all the other parts. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to start off on the low E string here on the 3rd fret. We're going to play that note with a downstroke, and then hammer on the 5th fret, then hammer on the 7th fret. After this, what we're going to do is go to the next string, the A string here, and we're going to up-pick the 3rd fret A, down-pick the 5th fret A, and up-pick the 7th fret A. So that was down, up, down, up. So that's the basic concept here. Hammer-ons, pick, pick, pick. The next thing we're going to do is use that same concept but through the next portion of the scale here. We're going to start off this time on the 3rd fret A string here on the C note. What we're going to do is we're going to downstroke that 3rd fret A, hammer on 5, hammer on 7. Then go to the next string here, the D string, and play upstroke on 4th fret, downstroke on 5th, upstroke on 7th. So again, it's the same concept as the first part of the lick. Downstroke with legato, up, down, up. Now we're on the next part of the scale. Downstroke with legato, up, down, up. So after you play, you're going to continue on through the next portion of the scale. You're going to start off on the D string here, 4th fret, with a downstroke, hammer on 5, hammer on 7. Then you got to go to the G string here and play 4, 5, 7, up, down, up. So now all together you have, starting from the E string, starting from A, starting from D. The next part of the lick basically mirrors everything you just played, only an octave higher. Now I don't have to go 12 frets higher to do it like that. What I'm going to do here is instead of starting off on this G, the 3rd fret E string, I'm going to start off on this G, the 5th fret D string. It's octave. So think back to that first lick, those kind of whole step stretches that you did, you know? Only play the same thing from the 5th fret D. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play 5th D with a downstroke, hammer on 7, hammer on 9. Then I'm going to go to the G string and play 5, 7, 9, up, down, up. So that means that's what we have right there. The next portion of the lick here is going to start off on the 5th fret G with a downstroke, hammer on 7, hammer on 9. Then you're going to go to the B string here and you're going to play 7, 8, 10, up, down, up. And for the very last part of the lick here, what we're going to do is to play the 7th fret B string with a downstroke, hammer on 8, hammer on 10. And then on the high E string here, we're going to play 7, 8, 10, up, down, up. And then lastly do a downstroke on the 12th fret E to resolve against the root note of an E minor chord. So now your entire thing here should resemble that first octave starting from our low G. Our next octave starting from the middle G. And your resolve right there at the end. If you add a little bit of palm muting back here at the very back of the bridge too, it makes it sound a little bit more punchy and percussive, almost like it sounds picked. That's one of the big secrets of Paul's legato stuff, is a lot of times, you know, he's got just a little tiny bit of palm muting going on just to make it sound a little bit more punchy. Here's without any muting. Here's with muting. Just kind of makes all those notes a little bit more short and staccato sounding. In order to master this sequence, what I want you to do is to divide and conquer those two hands here and really understand what the right hand is doing when you play this lick. Because here's the deal, even whenever you play that sequence fast, I'll just play the first, you know, the E string and A string sequence that we started with. Just playing that on repeat. You gotta understand, if you isolated just the right hand, it would look like this. Down on the E, up, down, up on the A. Just like that. So even whenever I'm playing that lick at high speeds, again, if I was to isolate just this hand, I would recommend just practicing that little picking thing. Maybe even, you know, just hold down a power chord with the left hand and practice going through that picking sequence. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. To understand that even though, you know, you're shredding through this, the right hand isn't really doing all that much. So I recommend taking a look at how the picking goes over that entire lick and maybe even practicing it alone, just isolated with one hand with a metronome. I've heard Paul Gilbert talk about doing this kind of thing too. Just like this. Down, up, 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 down. That's all the right hand is doing during that lick. So practice just that. I mean, that's almost the full speed of the lick that I did at the first of the video today, so keep in mind, right hand isn't really going all that fast. So one more time, both hands. Right hand. Just like that. Again, practice them separated like that, and you'll probably get this lick down in no time. Thank you guys so much for watching this week's lick lesson. Be sure to take that sequence and apply it to any other 3-note per string scale that you can, see what you come up with. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and you guys can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Ben Eller Guitars. You can also go like my new Facebook fan page over on facebook.com/Uncle Ben Eller. And if you're interested in booking some one-on-one Skype lessons with me, drop me a line, benellerguitars@gmail.com. Thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for another sick lick next time. Cheers.